Okay, I'm going to tell a Christmas story, and you're probably wondering why I'm telling a Christmas story so out of season. The reason is that it fits the theme of the day really well. Together we can. So there was a little village in Scotland, and it was a very happy village. Everybody knew everybody, and everybody knew the Collie Dog. The Collie Dog wandered around the village. He was homeless. His owner disowned him a long time ago, but he was everybody's favorite. Wherever he went, he got a kind word and a little bit of food. The people in the village looked after him. He would go places to sleep. He had a few favorite places, and sometimes he'd go here, sometimes he'd go there. And he woke up one day on a cold winter day and he said, I wonder if anybody in the town has some food for me. So he wandered around the village, and he was surprised to find that everybody was indoors. He didn't encounter anybody. And he looked inside a home and saw a fire with a family gathered around it, and he saw a Christmas tree. He said, now I understand. It's Christmas Eve. Everybody's at home with their family. Well, he still wanted some company, and quite honestly, he wanted some food too. And he said, I'll go and visit the Peacock. The Peacock lived with a merchant who had two birds, a peacock and a peahen. And he showed up at the house, and the Peacock said, Collie Dog, if it isn't you. And the Collie said, yeah, it's me. Peacock says, I see you're on the wander again. And the Collie said, yeah, I'm wandering around. It's a quiet night. It's Christmas Eve. And the Peacock said, yeah, it's a quiet night here too. My wife is sitting on an egg trying to hatch it. She's been working on it for the longest time, and I don't see that anything's going to come of it. But it's a nice, quiet evening. And the dog said, yeah, and it's a happy evening. So then the Peacock said, it is a happy evening, but I wonder if there's some people who aren't happy. And the dog said, funny you should ask that. I just passed the home that the old widow woman lives in at the edge of the town. It didn't really look like a happy place. She didn't even have a fire. I guess she's so poor she couldn't even afford a fire. She seemed to be so alone, and I felt so badly. I like the widow. I know she doesn't have much, but she always gives me a little bit of food. And the Peacock said, it doesn't seem right that some people have so much and some people have so little. Then the dog said, I see you have a lot of peats here. You can make a pretty good fire with those. And the Peacock says, well, they belong to my owner, but I just got an idea. Suppose I stole a couple of peats. They wouldn't miss them. And we could bring them over to the widow and she could have a fire on Christmas Eve. And the dog said, that's a wonderful idea, but she still wouldn't have any food. But then the dog said, but I got an idea. It's Christmas Eve, all the stores are closed, but I know a secret entrance into the butcher shop. I usually use it to go in and get bones that have a little bit of meat on them so that I can gnaw on. But there's so much meat in the butcher store. I could probably take out a string of sausages. He wouldn't miss them, and we could bring them over to the widow and she could have a Christmas Eve lunch. And then they heard a scratching at the door. It was the big black tomcat who wandered around the village. Like the Collie Dog, he was homeless, and like the Collie Dog, everybody looked after him. And they said, hey, Tomcat, good to see you. And Tomcat said, good to be here. But I can tell you guys are planning something. Don't keep a secret. Tell the Tomcat what you're in on. And the dog said, we wouldn't think of keeping a secret from you. You're a good friend. This is what we had in mind. We're going to go over to the widow the old widow and bring peats to make a fire and sausages to have a Christmas Eve feast. And the cat said, "That's a wonderful idea. I see she's all alone. And you know, I really like the old widow. She always gives me a little bit of milk when I come by. And I can bring something to this party too. I'm just a cat, but I've got some tricks myself. I know a secret way to get into the fish store. Usually I use that to go in and get the heads and tails that the fishmonger cuts off. But there's so much fish in that store. He's got herrings and kippers. I could probably take a couple of kippers and we could bring them over to the widow." So they made a plan. The Peacock stayed where he was with the peats hidden under his wings, and the dog and the cat went and got the things that they needed to get. It didn't take long. The dog came back with a string of sausages that he held above the ground so they wouldn't drag, and the cat came back with a couple of kippers, and they headed off. Nobody paid any attention to them, and they made their way to the house at the edge of the village where the widow lived. It was small. It had a garden and a fence and a gate. And on the gate, they ran into the owl. They knew the owl really well. The dog saw him all the time and said hello. And the owl said, "Good of you to come by and visit the widow on Christmas Eve. But if you're looking for food, I think you may be out of luck. She really doesn't have much." And the dog said, again being very careful not to drop the meat on the ground, "We're not looking for food. We've got food. We've got sausages and kippers and peats to make a fire." And the owl says, "How wonderful. I'm going to join you. I want to come to this party." So they went up to the house and scratched on the door. Nobody came. Scratched on the door again. The widow came out and said, "Oh, my wonderful friends, you've come to visit me on Christmas Eve. Come on in and get warm. You know, I wish I could feed you something, but I really don't have much." But the animals didn't say anything. They went right up to the fireplace. There was a little fire, just a wisp of a fire. It was burning out. And they put down the peats and the sausage and the kippers. And the widow said, "Oh, you wonderful friends, you even brought me a Christmas Eve feast. Let me get the fire going." She put the peats on, and soon there was a roaring blaze that filled the room with good cheer. And she said, "Let me go into the kitchen now and I'll prepare a Christmas Eve lunch." So she went in the kitchen, and the animals stayed in front of the fire. And the peacock said, "You know, this is a nice house, but it's lacking something. It really needs a Christmas tree." Dog said, "Well, I think it's a bit late now. Where are we going to get a Christmas tree?" Peacock said, "I'll tell you something. I've got a Christmas tree." And the owl said, "You've got a Christmas tree. How does that work? Where's your Christmas tree?" So the peacock stood in front of the fire and fanned out his big, colorful tail feathers. And it was just like a Christmas tree. And the peacock said to the owl, "You know, you came along and we're happy to have you. You're a good friend, but we needed another gift. We needed one gift for every animal. So this is for you. I'm providing us with a Christmas tree." The widow came out, and when she saw the beautiful tail feathers of the peacock that looked like a Christmas tree, she was just overwhelmed by the generosity of all the animals, and she cried tears of joy. Then she brought the food out and they had a feast, and then she sat in front of the fire and told stories for many an hour. And after a long while she said, "You know, I think it's time for me to get a little bit of sleep, but as long as I live, I'm never going to forget this wonderful Christmas Eve feast. It was the best one I ever had." And the animals filed out. The dog, the cat, the peacock, the owl. Nobody paid any attention to them. Nobody paid any attention to the widow. But the animals knew they had the best Christmas Eve ever.